And we are live. Welcome everybody to this, which is the Smart Building Series, and it's number 5 for 2019. Thanks for joining us today. And we are talking about open access control. What does it really look like? And I'm very happy to have on the line with us James from OpenPath. Hi, James. How are you doing?
Great, James. How are you? It's easy. We can't mess up one another's name.
Yeah, that's right. That's it. Another James. Appreciate you taking the time today. Really good. And let me just start with a bit of housekeeping, and then I'll let you make your own introduction, and then we can get going with today's webinar. So first thing I just want to do is thank our sponsor, Project Haystack. We encourage everybody out there to go to project-haystack.org and look at what those guys are doing regarding simplifying data for the Internet of Things. So, it's an open source framework to allow you to tag data and be able to share that more easily across different systems. So it's well worth checking out. I also want to say that we are all of this content's available. We're recording it. So you can get it all either on SoundCloud. If you go just search for Memoori Research on there, you'll find us, or Smart Building Series. Again, iTunes, you can subscribe to our channel there. And if you get the chance, it'd be great to leave us a review as well. Would definitely appreciate that. And last thing, questions. If anyone has questions out there, very happy to take them. What we're going to do first is let James talk a little bit about his company and the slides he's brought with him today. And then after that, we're going to open it up. We're going to have a Q&A session. So feel free to type in your questions, and then we can go through them all later. So James, please tell me about OpenPath and what you guys are up to.
Well, James, it's a pleasure to be here today, and would love to give you just an intro and an overview on OpenPath and sort of what we're up to. And I think, obviously, open is at the core part of our name. And so when we looked at this market, we thought about how to address access control. Openness was central to how we wanted to approach the user experience, the sort of landlord and tenant experience, and the installer and system integrator experience, because those are all the constituents that you're dealing with when it comes to setting up an access control system in a building, and then using it on a day-to-day basis, whether it's the administrator or the user. So, we are a company obsessed, literally obsessed with the user experience, and it stems from we're serial tech entrepreneurs. My partners and I. This is the 4th company we've built over the last 20 years. And what's happened is in every single company, we've ended up with a whole lot of these, a whole lot of key cards and badges. And this was actually my partner's badge pack at our last company. We sold it to Verizon. And so we had, access cards to get into multiple buildings at our campus here in LA, as well as across the US and then across the world. And the problem that we ran into is that we never had the right badge at the right time. Right, and this was a bad experience, either because you forget them in the car, leave them at home, or don't have the right one, or it doesn't work, or just the management and the hassle of administering access control, credentials, and then the lack of security. Right, this is not a very personalized way to secure a physical presence. Anybody can find a badge and use it. Whereas, we thought, the mobile phone, that seems to be a good idea. It's ubiquitous. Everyone uses their mobile phone everywhere they go, especially in the workplace. And we couldn't understand why mobile, which is this great technology that has, opened up and disrupted so many different industries, hasn't impacted the access control space, right? These are, badges that are 40 years old, RFID technology, and we sort of looked at this category and said, wow, okay, we scratched our head as entrepreneurs and said, well, if things like mobile haven't disrupted this category, how do we come in and make it work, right? And there's 2 themes. One is mobile and one is cloud. Most businesses have moved most of their software, their enterprise software, to the cloud. And yet in this category, software is installed locally and still sort of running on an old Windows machine at the premise. So we said, let's look at the market. We actually saw, this is what we saw. There's mobile apps out there. All of the incumbents, as well as many upstarts in the space, have mobile apps. And we looked and we saw they have maybe 2 to 3% market adoption. And we, again, scratched our heads and couldn't understand why. And so we interviewed a lot of users and found out, well, the reason is the apps just aren't that great. They're not working as well as the expectation that people have for access. They want you to be able to unlock a door instantly with zero latency. They want to walk up and have it work reliably every single time at the door. And they want it to be cost effective and affordable. And these apps just weren't delivering on that. So what we did is we kind of reinvented the app, and we sort of looked at it from the user experience and said, let's build an app that allows you to have reliability so that you know you're always going to be able to unlock the door. Let's make sure that it's easy to use, and let's make sure that it works really, really quickly. And so we developed this technology, and actually we got a patent on it. It's called our triple unlock technology. What it does is it allows you to use your phone and all the capabilities that are on the phone to unlock the door, not relying on just one technology. So, we use 3 different methods to unlock the door. Every time you press the button on the app to unlock the door, it actually sends 3 signals simultaneously to the access system to unlock the door. It sends it over low energy Bluetooth, that's BLE. It sends it over Wi-Fi, over the local area network that you're connected to on your phone. And then over cellular network, whether it's 4G, 5G, LTE, and back through the internet down to the access system. And so every time you hit unlock, it sends these 3 signals simultaneously, and they're sort of pit against each other. We race them against each other to see which one can hit the access system and unlock the door first. The first signal to hit the system unlocks the door, and the other 2 are discarded. And so what you end up with is a super fast response time that works 99.9% of the time. So let me show you how it works. Hopefully this video works well. Sub-second response time. I walk up to the door, press the button, it unlocks, and you'll see he walks up to the door, presses the button, it unlocks. And so as we were building out this technology, we're super excited. We found a mobile app that we made fast and reliable. And then we actually deployed it at our office. We used it for about a week, and it was really novel. It was really cool. But what happened was we ended up with going back to the key cards after a week. And the reason why was that it actually takes more work to use your phone than it does your key cards. It takes about 3 thought cycles to use a key card. You basically take it out of your pocket, you swipe it on the reader, and then you put it back in your pocket. Well, to use your phone, it was taking 7 thought cycles. I had to sort of find my phone. Maybe it's in my purse or my pocket or my backpack, or I'm talking on the phone. I had to unlock the phone, or I had to close my email app. I had to find my OpenPath app. I had to open my OpenPath app. I had to find the door I wanted to unlock. I had to open the door I wanted to unlock. And that was just too much work. So we said, okay, there's some friction here. Let's see how we can reduce it. And that's when we came up with touch. And touch was a game changer. This was a feature, a capability that really allowed clients and users to effortlessly walk up to a door and open it. They can just keep the phone in their pocket or their purse. They don't have to dig it out. They can talk on the phone, whatever they're doing. And they just walk up to the door and they just wave their hand at the reader, or you can basically just touch the reader and it unlocks the door. What happens is we have a low energy Bluetooth signal that is established between the phone and the reader as soon as you walk up. And then what we do is we look for you to show intent, a second trigger, so to speak, to sort of say, hey, this is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to open the door. And as soon as you wave your hand or touch that reader, it unlocks. So let me show you what that looks like. In this case, she's walking up to the door. The actual phone is in her purse, but she can just walk up, touch the reader with her hand, and the door unlocks. In this case, this gentleman's got the phone in his pocket. He just goes up, touches the reader, effortless. You can see she's got the phone right there on her pad, and this lady has the phone in her pocket. It's just friction-free and easy. And so, we rolled this out, and we realized, okay, there's a couple other things we had to solve for. We actually found a way through another patent we developed to actually wake up the app on the phone if the app's closed. And so we reduced that friction as well. And when we rolled this out, we were blown away at the numbers. We saw we had 94% mobile adoption. And what's kind of crazy about that is in a marketplace where 2 to 3% mobile credential adoption is the standard, for us to have 94% really means we kind of cracked the code on mobile. I guess the challenge then was, how do we make this work in an open framework everywhere in a building? So, you can't just have it work on your office door. It's got to work on the garage gate when you drive up, on the turnstile when you walk into the building, on the elevator in a busy lobby, and then, even just getting into the busy lobby. And so we control both the software and the hardware, which gives us a unique opportunity here to tune the features to make it work in all these environments. I think one thing you'll find, and we'll probably discuss it later, In this open or less than open access control world, there's so many different vendors making so many different pieces of the system that they don't necessarily all work well together. And when you're trying to roll out innovative new technology like we did here, trying to make the panel talk to the credential that talks to the software and have a product development roadmap and a feature roadmap that are synced so that all these different folks making the different pieces actually are able to support cutting edge features quickly and effectively is difficult to do. But in OpenPath's case, we decided we were going to make the software, we were going to make the mobile credentials, we were going to make the readers, we were going to make the panels, and that allowed us to build them in a way that makes them super easy to integrate in all the different business automation systems and building automation systems that are there, but also makes them function really, really well. So you can set the read range on the reader so that it's 40 feet and you can just drive up to the garage gate and you don't have to roll your window down and hold your phone out to the arm there. You can simply just unlock the gate from your car. Or in the case of the turnstile, you set it to turnstile mode on the reader, in which case the read range is just only a few centimeters. So you just brush your phone up against the turnstile and it unlocks the turnstile. So you don't set off all the different turnstiles and unlock them. And then for the elevator, is an auto proximity unlock feature, which is really cool. You walk into the elevator, and because you walked in, you now don't have to sort of push through all 20 people to get to the reader and to swipe your phone. It knows you're there, it detects that, and it unlocks the floors that you have access to right away. So you can simply say, hey buddy, can you press 20 for me, and it'll take you to the 20th floor. And then for the lobby, we've got schedules that allow you to sort of manage who and when they come in with two-factor authentication that you can enable so that before 9 in the morning or before or after 5 in the evening, you can say, hey, I don't have a security guard on staff watching people come in, so I want to make sure it's you. You have to actually unlock your phone with your face, your fingerprint, or your code before the app will work to allow you to unlock the door. So you can put different levels of security in place to meet all those business requirements. We also noticed that integrating with all the different software that's out there is important, especially when it comes to visitor management. So we built out a virtual pass, and this is called our guest pass feature. What's cool about this is you can integrate with a visitor management system in a building, or maybe a visitor management system that you have at your company to give people temporary access. They actually don't have to install the app on their phone. You can send them a virtual credential, which they can get via email or text, and it's a web link, and it allows them to just click that link and for 5 minutes or 5 hours or 5 days have access to a door that you give them without needing to actually install the software on their phone. It's pretty cool. We support key fobs and badges and cards, and I think one of the things that was important here was we have an open framework, so we can support legacy credentials that have already been issued to people. So if you go into a building and they already have an access control system, they're already using cards, we can support those cards and we can read them with our reader and pass on that credential either straight through to our own access control software or connect to a third-party system, and I'll talk about that in a sec, and authenticate and hand that off to the third-party system. So that's kind of our software sort of in a nutshell. I know when we talked about today's presentation, you wanted me to talk a little bit about what the access control landscape looks like today. Let's start maybe with the software. This is what most software looks like today. This is actually Linnell software. It's a market leader, tremendous functionality, but it's client-server based, right? You look at this, you have to install it, via a CD-ROM on a Windows 95 box that is sitting in an IT closet, or maybe it's in a security desk. And that's a lot of IT overhead, right? You need to buy a server, install antivirus, run the software, patch it on a regular basis. And this is kind of old school. What the world really uses today is cloud-based software. We built a native cloud application that is highly scalable, that is built on an API framework, which basically means you can integrate all the elements of it with any other web system and software that you're using. And it gives you real-time access to the data that you need, to the controls and the management tools that you need from anywhere that you have web access. So you can access this control panel from the browser on your phone, on your iPad, or frankly on a computer, anywhere. And it's real-time. So what's nice about that is you can see exactly what's happening with your access control system, not just at one location, but if you have multiple offices or multiple buildings, you can manage it all from a single pane of glass, which is super handy and also gives you scale that you wouldn't otherwise have with a legacy system. Integrations, of course, became super important as we investigated, what do enterprise customers want when they put access control in their offices, and what do building owners and landlords want when they're deploying access control in their properties. And it's about integrating the software with the way you go to work, the way you do business. And so we looked at the enterprise and we said, okay, how do they manage users today? Well, almost everybody has a single source of truth, something like Active Directory from Microsoft or G Suite from Google or Okta. And these third-party directory services are really useful. They maintain the sort of list of all the employees of a company, and they connect to all the IT systems at that business. And for some reason, in the past, access control had been sort of running in its own silo, right? It's an Excel spreadsheet that some administrator manages and sends updates to a parking attendant or a building property manager every time a new employee gets in, and then when that employee leaves, they have to sort of update that spreadsheet. We thought, hey, there's a much better way to do this. Let's just integrate with the directory services that everyone's using so that there can be a real-time synchronization. That means the minute you hire somebody new and add them to your IT system, they're instantly added to your access control system, right? They can download a mobile credential, they can get in right away, and then the minute they're gone, they're removed from that IT system. They're instantly removed from the access system, which means that credential is revoked and it won't work on their phone. Super useful, and it makes the administration and the security a lot easier. Real-time reports and dashboards I talked about, it's kind of table stakes in the cloud world that I come from, but was something that was rather novel in the access control world. If you wanted to actually get a report off of your access system, in most legacy deployments, you have to go call up the IT group or the security group, and someone's going to walk down to the IT closet or the security desk and unlock it, and then walk in and then connect a keyboard and connect a monitor and boot up the system and make sure it's all working, and then try to run a report, and maybe they can save it to a CD-ROM or a drive or something, and then there you go. This is all real time, and that's the way you kind of want to manage your business. We're trying to get away from this. We're trying to get away from paper, right? And so this was a typical experience moving into a new building. Every single employee has to fill out a form with all their information so that you get mobile credentials or any kind of credentials, right? With us, there's a landlord portal, there's a tenant portal. It's super easy for tenants to just synchronize this with their directory services and remotely sort of input data themselves so they can self-serve. And managers and property managers can take care of everything remotely as well. From a hardware perspective, we also saw that we weren't very happy with the landscape because the landscape looked like this. This is just a random snapshot. We take pictures everywhere we go of doors, and we sort of look at how kind of not pretty they are. People spend millions of dollars making their office space beautiful. They'll upgrade their furniture and get fancy architects and designers in, and then they'll have somebody come in and install an ugly reader on the wall, or maybe the second or the third or the fourth reader on the wall, and it's just, gosh, what a shame. And so we went and said, we're going to design readers that are just gorgeous, right? This is a beautiful piece of electronics that fits on any background, that works on any wall, that comes in white and black, that has a low profile. We actually have an 11 millimeter profile because it can mount flush into the actual gang box, which just means that it sort of blends in to the whole environment. And with that, we were able to sort of, make something that was really beautiful that people, wanted to look at. And then when it came to installing it, it just was easy. We run off of the same electrical wiring that's already in place. So if you have an access control system, you don't need to rewire your building. We'll run off of that same wiring. We can run off of new CAD6. We can run off of standard electrical wire with RS-485. Doesn't matter. You put our readers in at the door. It wires back to our panel. There's no software that's installed. You just connect it to the internet, and then we connect to all of your locking hardware. But where it becomes a really nice open framework is we can run along with a legacy system hybrid. So if you have legacy readers, right, connected to a legacy panel, connected to a legacy software, we can upgrade that with mobile and cloud capabilities while you don't have to rip anything out. So you just basically put our reader in to replace the legacy reader. We support all the old cards and credentials that are already out there. and our panel goes in next to the old panel. And what you've done is you've mobile enabled your system and given that feature to all of your users while still respecting all of the cards that are out there and enabling people to use them without any interruption of experience. So from a roadmap perspective, we always keep looking at, okay, what are the things that we can do to make and enhance this experience for users? And you'll see on the bottom right, we keep integrating with new and interesting apps that enterprise customers are using today in their office suites, right? Whether it's Slack, a communications tool where you can actually Slack open a door, which is kind of cool, or Envoy, a visitor management system where you can integrate it with how people visit your company. So days before, they can get an email with an access link to unlock a door, so they don't need to, bother with getting a visitor pass when they get in. And then on the top right, building automation systems, right? Whether it's security systems and camera systems, alarm systems, HVAC or lighting, we've got a whole roadmap of how we improve the smart building and integrate via our sort of open platform APIs. And then we keep building out new features and capabilities that enable this. So that's OpenPath and sort of our approach to the market and how we try to solve that user experience problem. So maybe I'll open it up and sort of talk a little bit about what you think and how we can respond to the requirements in this marketplace.
Yeah, great. Thanks, James. So as he said, anyone with any questions, please type them in, and I can put them to James. Or if you have even any questions for us, then feel free to do that. I mean, it's really interesting, and I think that's why I really wanted you guys to come on to the podcast, the webinar, and talk about it. As you come with a fresh pair of eyes looking at the access control business, and I think the two things that kind of stick out from that presentation for me is obviously your approach to user experience and your kind of approach to openness, which I guess was kind of like the whole point of doing this talk today. So I just wanted to dig in on those two things. I think first of all, with the openness, I mean, were you surprised when you sort of started looking at access control about that there weren't so many open standards, or that a lot of these systems are quite proprietary? What was your initial reaction?
Yeah, I mean, I think when we first looked at the market, trying to solve that user experience problem, we had hoped that there was more of a standardization in the marketplace, because what you get at least in the cloud world that we come from, what you get with standardization is you get, the ability for development teams around the world working on cool and interesting ideas to innovate and bring new features and capabilities and technology forward to get greater adoption, but all running off of the same, set of standards. I think it's a little bit more challenging in the physical world of access control because so much of the legacy is installed locally and it's sort of on-premise and not really connected with anything else. And I think that's fine, and in many use cases that's kind of appropriate. But as we want to support this generation of workers who expects this kind of real-time, smart building, connected experience, you have to make it work in a connected and online world. And that means you have to develop web-based, cloud-based technology. You have to support mobile. And that world is built on open standards. And so, having software that doesn't integrate with the business systems that you use as a company that, manages your users makes no sense to me. Like, why have it all in a silo? Having panels that only work with a small subset of access control software vendors or credential readers, that's just crazy to me. Like, you should have software and hardware that really works so people can make the availability of these features and capabilities possible. And so when we talked to a lot of the vendors in this space and sort of said, okay, do we want to integrate with the systems that you have today, or do we want to sort of push the industry forward? We decided to push. And we didn't want to relegate ourselves to a 2-year product roadmap that rolled out features at a snail's pace, which is what we would have had to do if we integrated with the legacy sort of panels and credentials and all the various things that were out there. Instead, we kind of said, hey, let's push this industry to get a little, faster and see if we can make a new standard, right? And I think a lot of other folks are entering this category with that same approach, which is, hey, the old way of doing things is not good enough. It's not delivering the customer experience. We need to push ourselves to be more, Web 3.0.
Well, I guess it kind of, looking at it from our perspective and the work we do, I guess it kind of raised the bar for you guys as well, right? Because you couldn't just focus on, let's say, doing a reader, right, and then some software, because you actually had to go and do a panel or like produce a panel as well, because otherwise you wouldn't have been able to create the kind of more open system that you wanted to.
That's exactly right. If I wanted to have this user experience where people can effortlessly walk up to the door and make it open, the existing panel manufacturers couldn't support that capability, right? They couldn't support my readers and the Bluetooth functionality and the real-time reporting and all that. And so I'm like, all right, I'm going to have to build my own. It's interesting because other folks have just entered the space and they've entered saying, oh, we're just going to do a universal credential, or we're just going to do, a reader. And I think you need to have the access system of record along with the reader and the hardware, and you need to sort of pull it all together if you want to win in this category and create that user experience.
Yeah, and I guess so. It's the advantage for the legacy players, right? Is that then that makes it harder for sort of new people to come in and disrupt the market. Again, which is perhaps why there's been a bit of resistance to open standards. But I think, if you look at what happened in video, OnViz now is pretty much accepted as a standard there, and I know they're trying to do similar things in access, but with sort of more newer companies coming in, it could gain more, or get more people behind it.
Well, I think the proof is in the numbers, right? So if you look at our mobile adoption rate, the industry mobile adoption rate was 2 to 3%, and ours is 94%. And so clearly, we've hit upon, the trend here, right? People want to use mobile; they're adopting it as their primary method, and we've enabled that technology through this tech, the stuff that we've developed. And I think that's rather empowering. Proofs in the numbers.
Right, but is that probably more testament to your user experience as opposed to kind of like the whole sort of being a more open environment for for suppliers and systems integrators?
Well, yes and no. You can't achieve that user experience without being open environment, right? And I'd say as we've talked to the channel, we only sell through our channel, and the channel are system integrators, low voltage electricians, locksmiths, the folks who install access systems. And the feedback we've gotten across the board is that, hey, the legacy systems don't deliver the features and capabilities in a timely manner that the market needs, and they don't work well. Plus, they're hard to install. And so all these folks are looking at ways that they can be different and offer cutting-edge technology to their clients. And a lot of them are also interested in moving to a cloud-based model because it allows them to get into a recurring revenue business model. And again, that's a new way to think for a lot of the system integrators in the market today as well. Everything's moving to the cloud, and they can now not just have a one-and-done access control install. They can actually create a managed program where they're giving value on a recurring basis to their client through the OpenPath technology. And that's also been a big change agent for a lot of the system integrators that we've partnered with here in the US. It's worth noting, by the way, that we haven't expanded outside of the US just yet. We're going to be doing that towards the end of this year and beginning of next year. So we're selling just in the US right now, and then next year will be all throughout North America and Western Europe.
Good. Well, that's great. And I think, so I mentioned open standards, but because of course, open means, it can mean a lot of different things, right? We could be talking about open source, or we could be talking, more about just a more open approach to development. But from your perspective, what does sort of a more open access control system look like? Is it more about giving the end user access to the data and enabling integrations?
I think what it is, it's about giving them the capabilities to bring every part of the access control system into their operation, right? So I'll give you a couple examples. We have clients who've taken our APIs, which are available on our website. It's all open and completely documented how to integrate with us, and anyone can do it. And we have developers who've gone and said, okay, great, we're going to build a tenant amenity app. And this is going to be something that landlords can offer to their tenants to allow them to really interact with the property on a whole. It's got, conference room booking and, schedules for the building, access to the fitness area, as well as access to the whole building. So they've taken the software development kit that we've built for our mobile app, and they've simply integrated our access capability into the mobile app. And they offer this as a combined experience so that you have a single app that you interact with for the whole building. And that, is a great way to use access. We have other customers who've said, hey, I have an alarm system at my office, and I'm tired of unlocking the door, even with my access control system, and having to still run in and, hear the beep, beep, beep of the alarm and go run up to the panel and, type in my number furiously before, it goes off. And so, our access system connects directly to the alarm now, and it shunts the alarm. And it also allows you to arm the alarm when you leave, all integrated through our cloud APIs. And we had nothing to do with this. This was just the customer going ahead and sort of enabling this. So there's lots of cool things that you can do when you make the tools available. And that's what's happened in the web world, right? People are constantly building out cool development technologies and tools and tinkering with and, finding ways to make the software work towards their business needs. And that just hasn't happened before in this category.
Yeah. And I'll be interesting to hear a bit more about your wider integration as well with building automation. That's so we'll come back to that. Just because I want to take a couple of questions from the floor here for you, James. First one, with the advent of facial recognition in phones, will there be any plans to integrate facial recognition technology?
Absolutely, yeah. So that's a roadmap item for us, and I think we think about it in that there's what we're going to do with facial recognition technology as a vendor, looking at ways to meet the user experience expectation of our customers. But there's also the fact that there's lots of different facial recognition systems that are out there, and we want to make sure that we can connect to them all. So today, our system connects with any third-party credentialing solution you want. So if you want to hook up a Wiegand reader to our, access control system, you can do that. If you wanted to hook up a fingerprint reader, a retina reader, an iris reader, a facial control system, all of those will work totally with our system. We are open to any kind of reading technology to credential a user that you want and can support that. And I think as we evolve over time, we're going to focus on making a really unique user experience. And whether it's around facial recognition or frankly, any access method, we want to be agnostic. The whole goal is you should be able to use any method that you want to access your space, and it should need to meet your user experience requirements and also your security and data requirements. And so facial recognition is right for certain customers. It's not right for other customers. And we don't want to mandate that that's the only way to do it, right? So I think understanding how people want to store and keep that data, enable the speed of experience, or add another way to lock down their access are all sort of factors.
Yeah, so let's say, for example, on the system, there's one area, one door that you require to be extra secure. You could set up another reader with some kind of biometric. So, it's kind of two-step then. You would need the phone, and then you'd need a fingerprint or a face or whatever.
Yep, multi-factor authentication. So today, we enable two-factor authentication with the fact that if you enable that feature, you have to unlock the phone first with your face or your fingerprint or your code, and then you can use the app. And then you can enable a third factor if you want by putting up an iris scanner, fingerprint scanner, or facial recognition scanner. And then, you can have, super duper triple authentication.
Yeah. Okay. Another question for you, and this ties into user experience, so it's an interesting one. They say, I'm very interested in visitor management, especially existing buildings with existing tenants. They have a facility management tool to fill in visitors that come. They have an agenda to invite visitors, and they have an access control or some kind of access control hardware. How do you update this system to your level? Are there limitations? So I guess that's kind of a question about, you know, what we see already and how could somebody improve that?
So let's talk about that for a sec. I guess if you wanted to upgrade a legacy system, and bear with me, I'm just going over here to a couple of different pages. There we go. Bear with me. Just trying to get to various different things here. So the slide I was showing just before, and let me just toggle back to that real quick. Go back to this. Oh, good Lord. There we go. Can you see my screen? Is it moving?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah.
All right. So the goal here is you don't want to interrupt the tenant experience in a building where you've already got occupancy. And many times we'll talk to a landlord and they'll say, oh, this is great, James. I want to upgrade the system in the building because, you know, we want to attract new tenants. We've got some great space coming up. Maybe we built out some spec space, or we want to reposition this building, but we have anchor tenants who have legacy systems. Maybe those legacy systems that they've chosen were chosen specifically because they integrate with our building system. How do we make sure that we don't, you know, piss off our existing users, but still enhance that experience? And so that's where our hybrid solution, we actually call it our mobile gateway, allows that to work. And so that's where you can run our system alongside the legacy system. And we basically pass through the credential that already exists through our reader to the legacy system and unlock the door. And that's kind of how we've approached it. And buildings who've deployed this have been really happy because they can make the building really marketable and sort of, you know, approachable to new tenants who want that cutting edge technology, but they don't upset the apple cart in terms of the legacy folks who are there, have the same experience, they use the same credential to get in, and it works on the building's doors as well as their suite doors. And so that was a big sort of breakthrough for us at the beginning, at the end of last year, where we heard from feedback from clients that, hey, you know, this is really important, guys. We can't always deploy you natively as the only system in there. And so this allowed folks to sort of have a more lightweight approach. And then over time, because we are an access system of record, we have the full suite of software. They actually kind of migrate their usage over to us and end up using the legacy system, not at all. But did that answer the question?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, again, it's sort of, let's say with a visitor. I mean, you did mention it before about being able to send people mobile credentials that were not permanent. Yeah. So you could, and I guess it's sort of thinking, I mean, you've thought about the flow, right? It's not just about people that access the building every day. It's also about sort of maybe people that want to visit and how you manage that process as well, how you manage that user experience.
Exactly. Yes.
Mm-hmm. So for example, could you have a situation where, you know, using your system and using some of those integrations, let's say with room booking systems, so you could over email organize, or you've had a phone call with your client, you've organized the meeting, you send them a invitation through, I don't know, let's say Microsoft Office suite, and then that updates your calendar, but it also then sends them the invite with some kind of QR code or the link, and, you know, directions and about what to do when they get to the office. So you're managing that whole flow, you're making it easier for them.
So that's exactly right. So the concept is called a cloud key. And what it does is it allows you to integrate the temporary credential component of offering, whether it's an individual or a third-party application, the ability to unlock a door. And they don't have to be an authenticated or credentialed user in the system with an actual app running on their phone. And so this is the same methodology that allows you to integrate with software like visitor management, calendaring systems, conference room booking systems, or even like Slack or communication tools. It basically allows you to embed an unlock command into that's got a set of rules associated with it into a third-party app, and to issue those. And so it's pretty cool technology. Again, no one can really do this except for us, but what's nice is that when you do this, it gives the flexibility to a developer to say, okay, hey, I've got an app that I'm using for scheduling my conference rooms. I want to embed the ability for that app to unlock the door for certain times of days, or I want my scheduling tool to be able to do this, or I want to have a panic button that I run that can lock down all my doors instantly, the same as it can unlock all the doors instantly. So you can have all these different capabilities because it's all web-based technology, and it gives you tremendous flexibility.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Anyone else, if they have any questions, feel free to put them to James. We've got plenty of time to take more questions, so feel free to do that. I think one thing also, I was interested in, you mentioned this, with your software, you've also created an access record as well, right? So you're collecting a lot of data there, right? About when people are coming into the office, when people are leaving, what areas they're using. Have you seen, and we've written a lot about other types of systems that are also doing real-time sensing of people and where they're moving, and for example, what desks they're using and what meeting rooms they're using. With what you're doing, could we, for example, somebody take that data, combine it with other data from other systems, and really look at like how people are using the building, understand when at what times that it's not being used, and therefore even perhaps look at how they could start heating the rooms or heating that area differently?
Sure. So let me give you a couple of examples of how we do that. So we have an integration with a company called Density.io. They have a people counter, and what it does is it allows you to determine when somebody walks through a door. That is really cool because when you hand off that information to the access control system, when an entry is presented and somebody presents a credential, how many people just walked in. The whole goal there is to solve the problem of tailgating. And tailgating is when you as a gentleman hold the door open for 3 other people who walk through. They haven't credentialed in, and now we don't necessarily know if they're approved people who are supposed to be in or just randoms. And so what this allows us to do is it allows us to easily count how many people just came through, and we can identify a tailgating issue right away, and that becomes super useful when you want to really lock down a physical space and make sure that no one's going to come in who's not meant to come in and take things or steal things or just be there when they shouldn't. I think the other thing that's super useful about our technology is that because we can, once you come into our physical space, determine that you're close to one of our readers, that Bluetooth relationship between the phone and you acts as a sensor, and it allows us to say, okay, we know when you're here and when you're not. From a security perspective, that's super useful. Think about, we're here in Los Angeles and there's earthquakes, right? We hear about tornadoes here in the Midwest. There's also, all kinds of, security incidents that are happening around the world. And you as an employer and you as a building owner, you want to know where your people are. So if you have 300 employees and you don't know how many of them came to work on a given day and something bad happens, it's really sort of challenging for you because you don't know who to worry about. Whereas with our system, real time, you can know 242 of your 300 people came to work that day and they're in the building. And over time, we'll expose the data to make it so that you can actually know where they are in the building. And that will give first responders, employers, property managers, all different folks the ability to really secure a physical space in the case of emergency. And that's really valuable. I, as an employee, I want that level of security and protection. I want, lockdown procedures that enable safety and security. I want visibility to, how I am moving around the space so that if there's an emergency, I can be protected. And I want that also if I'm liable, right? If I'm the building owner, if I'm the enterprise owner, if I'm the emergency service provider, because we need to get to that person right away and help them. And so I think that it becomes a really open opportunity for new technologies to evolve that help improve the physical security of folks in the workspace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, I had an interesting conversation with some people in real estate, and I think that is sort of some of what the future buildings look like. I think that they will expose data. They will be APIs from commercial buildings that will allow people to see or understand a little bit about that building. And they could be anyone. It could be people who just want to aggregate information to make a smart city application, or it might, as you pointed out, maybe even first responders who want a bit more information about potentially who could be in the building. I think there's so much scope there for making our buildings smarter, and obviously that starts with being much more open about the data, right?
Yeah, I think one thing that I want to make clear is we only know what's going on when you're in the building, right? So people enter a commercial environment today. Anytime you enter a shopping mall, you enter an office building, you enter a commercial building, you're badging in, right? Or you're under video surveillance, and you, from a safety perspective, are being tracked so that people understand how that physical space is being used, whether it's for safety or security or optimization. And that's something that we're all comfortable with, especially in today's world since 9/11. We're okay with that because we want to be safe in our physical environments. And so that sort of, access is an important component of the reporting and data that's shared. But once you leave the building that you work in, or the shopping center that you're shopping in, or whatever it is, we have no idea what you do, right? And I think the data requirements and the way that you keep that data, store that data, and think about that data change pretty dramatically as you start to move into the residential space, as you start to move into the home environment, right? And so that's why we're so focused on commercial real estate and the office space, because we're really a physical security system for that commercial building or that commercial space, and that's our primary objective. And what we've oriented the data, capabilities around are helping people provide physical security to the folks who run, operate, and manage that space, whether it's the business owner or the building owner, to improve the user experience while you're experiencing that security is paramount to our design approach. But at the end of the day, it's still around security.
Absolutely. But and it's up to your client to do whatever it is that they feel is right in terms of what they integrate with, what they don't integrate with, how they keep the building secure, what they do with that data.
Indeed. Yep.
Another question, a quick one. Will you be attending IFSEC in London this year? That's a security exhibition, like a European focus.
Unfortunately, yeah, I don't believe we're planning to attend right now, and that's probably just because we're so focused on our U.S. market launch that we came out of stealth mode last year at the end of May here in the U.S. and have been focused on making sure that we have a national channel and distribution network here in the U.S., which we do, and then a sort of well-established sort of launch plan for Europe. So I think that next year will be our year to focus on all of North America and Europe, and I think we'll look forward to seeing you at next year's show, but probably not this year's.
Mm-hmm. Sure. And then just looking at that slide you got up there at the moment, you're talking about building automation integrations. You said there's a kind of a roadmap for that as well. Are you guys looking now seriously at what else that you could do within the commercial building space?
Absolutely. So, we've integrated with elevators, turnstiles, parking and garage systems, as well as visitor management systems. And now what we're doing is looking at, the rest of the building experience. So There's a lot of really interesting and cool smart technologies that buildings are deploying to improve wellness in the building, and having the data that our access control system that can provide informs those solutions to be better at what they do. So knowing that you're in the building, that who you are in terms of, hey, I'm in this space right now, and I've got a conference booked in this room, and I'm going to be here for another hour. That's super useful to know whether the lighting should stay on or not, and whether the heat or cooling should stay on or not. The experience that we're trying to sort of think about is, I think we've all been through this, where you're sitting in a room after hours, or at your desk, and the lights go off, and you have to stand up and kind of wave your hands up in the air to get the motion sensor to trigger so that the lights come back on. That just shouldn't happen. And so I think having your OpenPath access on you should indicate to the building that you're still there and you're still using that space. And the contrary as well. Like if you're booked a conference room and you don't show up, well, we can know that you haven't showed up, and maybe we can free up that room so somebody else can use it. And so I think there's lots of ways to integrate with the automation of the building as the building systems evolve to just improve the quality of the user's experience. At the same time, I think it'll reduce costs for the building. It'll reduce costs for the tenant, and that's all beneficial. But I think it'll also improve the security experience for the folks who are managing that space. And those are all the constituents we think about when we sort of evolve that technology and consider that roadmap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's when you think about sort of like your example there of like rooms being booked and not being used, must be a tremendous amount of waste when you consider that over let's say someone who has a lot of office portfolio space.
Oh, for sure. I mean, so one of our investors is Emergence Capital. They're a well-known B2B venture capital firm in the Bay Area. They're investors in Zoom, right? And Zoom is a leading web conference system, as well as conference room booking and management, and a whole host of other great office automation technologies. And so we run Zoom here actually for a lot of the stuff we do. So as we talk to those folks and think about, okay, where are they going? What's their roadmap? How do we sort of fit in? We kind of build out an ecosystem, whether it's our Slack integration that we're doing or integration with other, office automation, building automation and technologies. We're kind of in the mix with all these folks thinking about and obsessing about the customer's experience. How do we get at the heart of what makes people enjoy their day better at work? And then what do we do to eliminate all the friction that they're going through, whether it's, waiting 50 minutes to get into a building because you're going through, an ID check and a credential issuance and a turnstile and a security, thing at the lobby of a building, and reducing that friction, or whether it's just knowing that, hey, I can, better utilize the resources of this building in the ways I want to, right? I can sit outside and work and be able to have access to the cafe area, or I can, book a conference room instantly and know that it's available and it's mine, or I can make sure that the heat or the air conditioning is turned on after hours when I want to work late, and even find a way to sort of, monetize that for the building so that I pay for the system to be on and they can track it and know what's going on. So all kinds of cool stuff that meet the requirements of everybody from a safety, security, economic, and feature perspective, but improve the quality of all of our lives every day.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. We're almost out of time, so if anyone has a final question for James, then please put it in now. Something that just cropped to my mind there as well is sort of about, we're working a lot more flexibly now. So again, that's kind of impacting on, how people are using commercial space, and, how much, I guess it's a problem companies are really struggling with, how much space do they really need on a day-to-day basis if, like, let's say, they employ 100 people with only 60 or perhaps in the office at any one time. Have you thought around that as well? Like, how does that kind of impact what you guys are doing?
Yeah, so it's spot on. So when we thought about, the future of how this technology and this data can be optimized to improve that quality of experience for users, and the user might be the building owner, it might be the tenant, it might be the individual user. reducing the cost of rent or better optimizing and utilizing the space to meet the requirements of how people work, that was critical. And so, that is absolutely the intent of where we're going with things. The more people that allow their users to have technology like this, the better responsiveness they can give to that user. And so maybe it's the end of your lease and you're thinking, all right, I have a big line item that's called rent. And rather than, move to a bigger office or a smaller office based on my interpretation of how I'm using the space, I can actually have real data that shows me how I'm using the space. Are all of my people coming to work every day, or are they hoteling and going to a co-working space? Are they using the offices that we have with all these walls? Are they using the open floor plan or the office space that we've set up? Are they using the conference rooms? How do they work? And I think especially with the multiple generations of workers in the workplace today and the different work patterns that they have, it's even more important to be aware of how they're using the space because it's not the way it used to be when I came up, right? When I came up, I sat in a cubicle farm, and I was happy to have my little space, and that was it. And I hope to one day be promoted to actually have an office with a door. These days, I run a company, and for the last 15 years, I have sat in a cubicle in an open space along with every single one of my employees. And, we all share the same environment, and I go into a conference room when I need to make a private phone call. And that's changing now. I see all of my folks sitting outside at our cafe on the deck on their laptops, and I see people, doing conference calls while they're, got earbuds in and they're walking around and getting their, 10,000 steps in, and they're, walking around the building doing conference calls. And so it's amazing to me the way work changes and the way space is getting utilized differently, and we need to be responsive to that. And as a technology vendor, we're trying to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's you hit on a lot of things there we've been seeing through our work as well that people are telling us about. And I think, ultimately, let's hope we can also create more open and integrated systems so we can, enable people to have, like you said, better experiences in commercial building and, give them the tools that they want to be more productive. I think, James, that kind of wraps it up. It's a good place to stop. I just would want to say thanks very much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it. And everyone still listening out there, we're going to be putting this recording up on YouTube and iTunes. So look out for that. It'll be on our website as well. It just remains for me to say thanks to James. Appreciate your time.
It's my pleasure, James. Thanks for the opportunity. And if anyone has questions, they can always go to www.openpath.com, and we're happy to work with everyone in the market.
Good. And if they're interested in looking at your API, where can they find that?
Our APIs are available on our website. Yeah, it's just basically if you go to the very bottom of our webpage, there's one of the navigation links that says integrations, and you click on that, and then it goes to our developer center where you can see all of our API stack, and you can have everything that you need.
Awesome. Thanks again. And as you said, if anyone has any questions for James, go to their website, and you'll be able to contact him through that. Thanks again. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
All right.